Hey there, folks. Mark Lewis here. Welcome to another edition of Warehousing Wednesdays. Happy to be back after a couple of weeks. It has been, busy, and I apologize for not getting a couple out. But I've got a really, I think, interesting story to share with you today, and then a little bit of news of something I'm going to be doing this coming Sunday and into next week that might result in a few more of these sessions and maybe get a chance to meet some of you. Something happened this past week. I was talking to somebody, happened to be in person, just got into a conversation with them at an airport, and they have a warehouse, and it's about 80,000 square foot or so, and they didn't know for sure 85. They thought 30, 35 people, maybe 40 at the max working out in it, and they didn't really have any systems, but we were talking about operational efficiencies and things like that. And I said, well, what are you doing for slotting? What does your seasonality look like? How are you slotting your product? And they go, we don't really have any seasonality. We don't really have it slotted. I mean, it's not that big a warehouse. We do replenishments from the top, but along the bottom, we just send people along. I go, okay, well, let me explain to you why you probably want to take some time to do a quick slotting analysis. Nothing fancy, but just you need to do one, and I'll explain why. And I literally sketched some stuff out. I don't remember if it was a napkin or a piece of paper, and said, here's why. Because I think I made the statement, you'll get about 50% efficiency increase simply due to travel time in your operations if you'll just go through the slotting exercise. And they didn't really buy it. So I said, all right, well, let me explain. So this is what I did. If you're ever somewhere and you need to just explain slotting to somebody, this is what you're going to do. It'll be really easy. Here we go. So remember, everything is Pareto. So first, you have to know what slotting is. And there's a whole bunch of ways to slot. This is simply volume. This has nothing to do with size. This has nothing to do with affinities or any other type of slotting you might do. This is purely volume slotting, ABC analysis slotting, basic stuff, right? And I made the statement to him, everything's Pareto. I'm a huge Pareto fan. In fact, I still have a side consulting company. I have used it off and on basically since I've been doing this, called Pareto Supply Chain, Pareto SC, because I live it. The world is Pareto. So for those of you who don't know what Pareto is in detail, Pareto, the term comes from, in 1906, Vilfredo Pareto, who's an economist, identified that about 20% of the people in Italy owned 80% of the land, had 80% of the wealth. And I think he expected it to be more like 50-50, and it wasn't. It was interesting. So the short version is a lot of people started looking at wealth distribution in a lot of countries, and they found out that's true, or something very close to is true, everywhere they looked. And then in 1941, a guy named Juran, who, if you're an industrial engineer that went through college in the 80s, you know Juran. I've actually read his book. Built it out and put some math and analysis behind it, et cetera, and broadened that concept to kind of be the classic 80-20 distribution thing we know today. And today, there's all kinds of variations on it. One I like, if everybody likes economy and income inequality and things like that, go look at the Gini index. It's just another way and version of looking at Pareto, going all the way back to what Vilfredo Pareto did in 06. And it helps measure income distribution against happiness and things like that they look at countries around the world. I think it's really fascinating, and which is why I say Pareto is everywhere. Specific, though, to warehousing, this is classic. This is what it looks like. And I do confess, I literally went out about an hour ago and said, show me a Pareto distribution. And this is one that popped up. And you'll notice it's not perfect. I suspect it's not smooth. I suspect that this ABC is somebody's real data. But notice it is so close to what a classic Pareto is, meaning your A's are 20% of your items, your B's are 30%, and your C's are 50%. At any given moment in time, when you do a slotting analysis and you look at your top 20% of your SKUs, the middle 30, and then the bottom 50, you'll find that those A-class items are about 80% of your volume. So at 20 to 80, right? And then your B's are 30% of your items at 15% of your volume, and C's are the rest, the other half of the stuff you have in your warehouse at any given moment in time is only about 5% of your volume. And that could be due to seasonality or just the way the industry works, whatever stuff you have to keep on hand as an add-on that you don't like, but you have to service the people, etc. That's what it is. That curve is everywhere. It doesn't change much. I've seen 75, 25, 5. I've seen 85, 10, 5, but it always looks about like that. So how do you do this really, really quick and dirty calculation? So if you take that and you said, listen, I've got a 100-foot long distribution center or warehouse, and I'm just going to put everything in there, and I'm going to go have you pick one item. There's no ABC, there's no nothing. How far do I go? Well, I go on average halfway back because there's no slotting, there's no nothing. So every time in an unslotted warehouse, it's 50 feet. Every time I go out, pick one, come back, because it doesn't matter. So your average pick distance in an unslotted warehouse is 50 feet. And you're maybe saying, yeah, but there's all kinds of variables. I understand that. But I promise you, when it's all said and done, and after having done this for 30 years and a couple hundred times, it doesn't matter. So now let's take that warehouse and let's slot it into a basic ABC, and it will, your A's at the front, that's on the left, and your B's in the middle, and your C's at the end, 20%, 30% in the middle, and then the C's, and it'll look something like that. So how far am I going every time I pick an A, a B, or a C? Well, an A, since they're 20%, every time I go to pick an A, I'm going to travel half of that 20, so it's 10 foot. Every time I pick a B, I've got to go through the A's and then through half of the B's. So it's 20 foot and then half of 30, which is 35 feet, 15 and 20. And then C is easy. It's the 50 and then a half of the other 50, which comes out to be 75. So every time I go pick an A, 10 foot. Every time I pick a B, 35 foot. Every time I pick a C, it's 75 foot. Now take those distances instead of your average of 50 and apply them to the frequency, the 80%, the 15%, and the 5%. So it's 0.8 times 10, 0.1 times 0.15 times 35, and 0.05 times 75, and you get 8 foot, 5.25 foot, and 3.75 foot. Your average pick distance by simply reslotting that warehouse goes to 17 feet from 50. Because of the volumes and the slotting. You didn't do anything different. You simply took the A's and the B's and the C's and put them in different places to minimize your travel time from those A's. And anytime I need to go randomly get that C, I don't care because it doesn't happen very often. So it's the other end of the warehouse, which is roughly a 66% reduction. That's 2/3 of the waste is gone when you do this. And side note on statistics, that 66% is really close to about 68%, which is inside 1 sigma each way on a normal curve. And those numbers are too close for there not to be a relationship there, but I've never studied it. But Pareto is everywhere, every time. So let's just apply that one more time. Let's say, yeah, that's perfect, and you're making some averages, but it won't be perfect. Just take 80%, do an 80-20 on the 66%, and I get a real world about a 53% travel reduction just by doing basic slotting. And again, in conversation, where that whole thing started is I said, well, you're going to gain about 50% if you'll just do slotting. And I guarantee you 50% will be conservative. And if you think about it, they don't have a slide on this. A well-run warehouse is still going to be 25 to 35% travel. People have to travel to go get things. Now I'm not including automation. I mean, a very basic warehouse where I'm, using scan guns and things like that. It's still going to be 25 to 35% travel. It just will, right? So if you say 30% on the average between those two, and I can cut out half of it, or you can cut out half of it by doing slotting analysis, that's 15% of your operational time and energy and money and people and everything. And if you're like this person, and they've got 30 plus people, maybe 40 people in there, that's 3, 4, 5, maybe 6, 5, let's call it 5 people at say $45,000 to $50,000 burdened. 5 people times $50,000, $250,000 a year. That won't make that, but when you've got that number to work with, you can afford to do some things. You can afford to buy a WMS. You can afford to, take the time to do it. It will be worth it. So, if you run into this, go back and grab those 2 slides. Just get the 80, 20, 20, 30, 50, and then your 80, 15, 0. Be able to do that math quick. But remember, in the end, if you're not doing slotting, a very standard basic slotting job is going to get you about a 50% reduction in travel time, in wasted handling. I mentioned that I had an event I was going to this coming week, and I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you all about it. The Oracle Logistics SIG User Conference is in Minneapolis starting on Sunday and running through next Thursday, and I, along with a fairly large Redwood contingent, are going to be there, and really excited about it. It gets a chance to tell our story. Redwood as a sponsor, we have a number of sessions we'll be presenting. The session that I'm most interested in is shown there, kind of in the middle bottom, and we're going to be talking about Redwood's journey to Oracle WMS Cloud. Right now, that's what we run in all of our systems. It's been about a 3-year journey to go off a number of other systems and consolidate on Oracle's WMS Cloud, and that involved operational changes as much as it did systems changes. And I think it's going to be a great story. And I've seen some of the metrics that our ops team is going to be presenting, and they are better than some of the metrics that we discussed earlier. Some of them are, I honestly did not believe, but I guess if you implement the product for other people, and you ought to be good at getting the results out of it when you run it yourself. So really excited about it. I will be there, as I said, Sunday through Thursday. So if you're at the SIG, definitely ping me. Let's hook up, let's meet, talk about all things warehousing. But even if you're not, and you're in the Minneapolis area on those days, shoot me a message on LinkedIn, or if you've got my email, do it there. Let's meet. I don't have to always be at that event. We've got some evening events too that, depending on the situation, we get somebody invited to. I am open to have conversations about warehousing, any aspect of it, with anyone who's in town for the week. If you can't tell, this is what I like to do. This is what I like to talk about. And if I can help you, I will. So it's great. I'm hoping to get a bunch of recordings for this while we're at the SIG next week with some of the other industry experts that I happen to know and will be in the same room with me at that time. So until next week, everybody, appreciate it. Looking forward to getting a chance to talk with you, hopefully next week, if some of you can be there. And if not, I will see you next Wednesday. Have a good one.